862 votes. That's what decided the last congressional race in the country in 2018, finishing off the blue wave. That race was in District 21. TJ Cox took down the incumbent at that time, Republican David Valadao. It took a little time for Valadao to make his decision to run again, but this week, Valadao received a surprising endorsement. And the former congressman for District 21, David Valadao, joining me now. How are you?
Not bad. How are you?
Super Tuesday coming very soon. How do you feel about things?
I actually feel really good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What are you hearing from constituents? And I know you went back to knocking on doors and talking to a lot of forums and stuff like that. What are you hearing within your base about this time around that you didn't hear back in 2018?
A lot of people fired up. That's one thing I do see, especially with a lot that's not happened in Washington over the last year. The lack of focus on issues that is important to the Central Valley. There are a lot of really fired up people who are very motivated to be helpful now.
As I mentioned, the surprising endorsement coming from the Fresno Bee this week. Were you surprised by that from their editorial board? You
know, I've gotten their endorsement in the past. I didn't get it in 2018, but I went in, I talked about all the issues. I think I spent quite a bit of time on the issues. It was a quick endorsement of the paper, but the behind the scenes part is actually pretty long. And we went over a lot of different policy discussion, and I felt like I walked out and I felt pretty good about it.
You know, and you mentioned that you didn't do it in 2018. And in their article, it said specifically that they felt that that hurt your chances of being reelected in 2018. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Well, it probably hurt me with the endorsement. As far as it probably had an impact, I'm sure. I mean, I lost by 862 votes, so every vote does matter, and I'm sure they have an impact with some.
You know, there has been so much talk about that 862 vote margin, from ballot harvesting to there's even been talk that, you know, and these are all unconfirmed, about Mike Bloomberg buying some votes here and winning over some delegates and that kind of thing. Did you buy into any of that, or did you think it was a fair and square deal?
You know, there was a lot going on the ground. We had people through the whole process making sure that everything was on the up and up. But there's a lot of things that are being accused out there that I have no way of verifying one way or the other. So we've just kind of tried to stay above that, focus on the issues, focus on making sure we get people out to vote. We do know there was a large number of Republicans that did not turn out. That nationwide, about a little over 8 million voters didn't turn out that had turned out in 2016 on the Republican side. In district specifically, it was about 5,000.
So what did you learn, you think, from 2018 that is re-changing some of your focus now in District 21 that will maybe get your seat back with voters?
One thing that I've learned is you can never work too hard, and I've got to work harder than I've ever worked before, and I've got to spend more time in every community, reach out to every different segment of the population I possibly can, and make sure that I can't assume that people knew some of the things I was doing in Congress, and I've got to work harder to make sure that they know that, hey, we worked on a lot of really positive things that they're seeing today.
We know a lot of people, voters, watch this show. Listening to you now, we know that they read a lot of reports out there, some unconfirmed, some confirmed, and we've read reports where TJ Cox is owing tens of thousands, it's somewhere in the six figures in taxes. We've heard that, you know, you've had problems with your dairy farm, financial problems there. We've discussed that before with you on this show. But as voters, as they listen to this, do you think that really goes into their thought process when they're voting?
I think it does. I think it plays a role, but there's obviously some very different situations there. On my situation, I played by the rules. I did exactly what I was supposed to do as a member of Congress who happened to own a business too, is I basically pulled back from my business, got back away from all the day-to-day operations, wasn't allowed to make any real decisions in the process. And then I was also in one of the industries that's the biggest here in the Central Valley, but also one that struggled across the nation. And in the nation, just last year, we lost 2,700 dairies. In the Central Valley, we lost a large percentage of dairies as well. And it's been a tough, very, very tough 10 years on the dairy industry. And so I think voters, being from such a large dairy district, will understand that I'm one of them. I went through the same thing that a lot of my friends did growing up.
You know, just recently you were in Bakersfield where President Trump was signing that water memorandum. He called you out by name. We got to get your seat back, David Valadao. He calls you out. Obviously, it's a Republican Party celebration there during that signing. But how much does President Trump's words matter you think, for helping your campaign?
So on that one specifically, being pulled up on stage for something like that was huge. And when you think about everything that's happened in the Valley, the amount of fights we've had in Washington over water for just my whole lifetime, and especially my political career, to actually see some movement in the right direction where we're actually going to see some results from this, it was big, and I was thrilled to be there. I was thrilled to shake his hand and thank him for what he's done on water. I mean, just like every other constituent, we all have our concerns, but on that one, that was a win. I think every elected person in the Valley should have been there to say thank you for that.
Now, again, on the flip side of that, people that don't agree with President Trump and people who see you connected to President Trump will say, I don't want to vote for him now because he's in line with President Trump. Any thought to that?
No. I mean, everything plays a role in every person's decision, but I think people have to pay attention to what was actually done. If that had been Bernie Sanders or had that been Hillary Clinton standing there signing that document that was beneficial to us, as a representative, as a person that cares about the Central Valley, I think you have a responsibility to be there and support them when you're doing the right thing. And that's what I think what we need in Washington that we don't have today. Right now, it's everyone standing in their corner, point fingers and fight, and we need people who are willing to go up, stand alongside of those who are trying to help them and work with them to solve problems instead of just fighting.
So Congressman Costa, I've heard him say this, and I know that you're not a congressman right now, but he said that, you know, he was in favor of this allocation in this water memorandum, where the governor is now looking to block the biological opinion. Are you hearing that as well through the channels? I know you're still connected, even though you're not a congressman.
So what I've heard is that the state of California was involved almost daily in the process of these biological opinions. For them to show up and sue like they are, I don't believe they've got a shot to actually do any damage to this. They are going to drag it out through the court process, which is a disappointment because it's one, waste of taxpayer dollars, but two, also a waste of our community's time. But it's also most likely going to fail, and I think they're just doing that for political points.
All right, I got 10 seconds here. How much on Super Tuesday, what you see in the primary, will determine what happens in November?
You can never take anything for granted. I think we'll do well, but I don't want to make any assumptions from that. Every election has to be treated differently. You got to work just as hard for the next one.
All right, David Valadao, appreciate your time.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right. Coming up, thousands of primary ballots in Fresno County being thrown out. Could this delay results on Super Tuesday? Our panel returns.